So, welcome to ABC's Help Desk program. We will begin our live momentarily. So, welcome and thank you for joining us here at Arts Business Collaborative's inaugural Help Desk program for 2022. I'm so excited to see everyone and thank you for your time. Before we get into our conversation, welcome and thank you for joining us here at Arts Business Collaborative's inaugural. Thank you for your patience working through some technical difficulties here. Give me one moment. Okay, I think we worked through that. So thank you again. And before we get started, I want to just make a few announcements and then I'll introduce our guest. So, again, welcome and thank you for coming. Okay, I think we worked through that. So, thank you again. And before we get started, I want to just make a Okay, we're going to try this again. Thank you for your patience. So, welcome to ABC's Help Desk. Help Desk is a free business consulting program offered by the Arts Business Collaborative. I am Lydia Tyler. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the programs manager for ABC's Help Desk program. The goal of Help Desk is to provide strategy and individualized pro bono consulting and business courses, as well as one-on-one consulting with live consultants for POC individuals and or organizations that are serving POC communities, and with the goal of creating access and sharing the knowledge. So this live Meet the Consultant is being recorded and broadcasting live on YouTube, and was working with some technical difficulties, so thank you again. And will instantly be posted on our YouTube page, and so you can watch this right away. A little bit of a breakdown for ways you can get involved with Help Desk before we start this discussion. And I'm just going to share my screen so that we can kind of visualize this. So we are trying to make all things accessible and free on our website. And so we recognize that your time is valuable. And so signing up for Help Desk is a very brief survey that you can take to get registered. And then you could immediately start taking courses with our partner, Creative Study, which are free business courses with consultants as well as professors from NYU and Columbia in arts business. And then these interviews and these live chats where knowledge shall be shared. You can also view these, like I said, on our YouTube page, as well as registering for one-on-ones. And those links are all on our website at www.artsbusinesscollaborative.org/programs/helpdesk. We'd like to thank our sponsors, M&T Bank, Ameriprise Financial, and the Mertz Kilmer Foundation. Also, if you are interested in fiscal sponsorship, ABC is launching their fiscal sponsorship program. Fiscal sponsorship allows us to provide technical assistance to organizations and businesses that are not necessarily under 501c3 status, but are looking for 501c3 support from funding from research into funding. And then we also have weekly program check-ins with the organizations that are partnered with us through fiscal sponsorship. We have several fiscal sponsorship models, and if you would like to learn more about fiscal sponsorship, please contact programs@artsbusinesscollaborative.org. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first consultant, Shamair Coward. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background on Shamair. Shamair Coward is a consultant around innovative strategy and planning and development. She has over 10 years of strategy and management and process engineering experience within small business, insurance, and not-for-profit government sectors, both domestically and globally. Shamair has worked on and led several global and cross-functional projects, and she's an expert at leading small to medium-sized businesses through a strategic plan that produces, that works into product development as well and launches. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Shamair Coward into the space. Thank you, Shamair, for speaking with us today.
Take myself off mute. Hello, thanks, Mixie, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone.
Oh my goodness. So I'm very excited to start this conversation with you because your level of expertise and knowledge and experience has just, and has been such, I'm just always impressed, and how you continue to share your knowledge and really walk people through a solid business plan to being able to produce something that is sustainable in their business. And so please, first, before I just start talking all about you, my first question for you, Shamair, is how did you come to, business consulting and building your own business as a consultant? Like, what was that journey for you?
So it was quite maybe a little straightforward, maybe not so much. I guess it's just a matter of your own opinion. But I worked in management consulting. And, for these huge businesses, I would do everything from strategy and innovation, product development, change management, process improvement, and so on and so forth. And being the natural entrepreneur that I am, I would always think, wow, small businesses could really use these services. It would really like catapult them to another level. But how would they even be able to afford something like this, right? We're going in teams of 2 and 3, and they're paying lots of money per person to execute on a lot of these projects. And it's just not feasible for the average small business to, get those services. So that's why I applaud ABC for this initiative, because it's just wonderful. And I'm hoping that small businesses can really see the value in having a consultant come and help you, with your any area of your business. And as far as supporting creative and arts business, I myself am a creative. So this is like extra special for me to be working with the folks at ABC.
Thank you, Shamair. I just wanted to, ask also kind of an anecdotal question. What in your work experience before you started your own business in consulting, what was an experience where you were, like you said, someone needs to have this? Like, what was there a specific experience that kind of got you to a place of like, I'm going to stop just working for other people to do, whatever the company is telling me to do. And I really want to take this back to the people or the communities that I really want to serve. Like, was there a situation or what made you turn that corner?
It was a couple of things. The first thing is as I mentioned, I had my own creative and entrepreneurial endeavors that I was doing at the side of my desk, like I'm sure a lot of people on this call are or were at some point in time. And I just couldn't do both. It wasn't realistic, so I had to figure out how can I transition. And a lot of people who knew the work that I did, they would always ask me questions about, brainstorming with their business or going through planning stages and writing a business plan. It's one of those things where you don't know people know you as that until they start coming to you with questions. You're like, what made you call me to ask me this? Or I didn't even know that you thought, So I really started to hone into that. And anytime I did help someone through it, you've seen me help, I was always excited. Like it never felt like a daunting task or the time flew by. I could sit with them for, a while and do that. So that's where I kind of started helping and supporting others. And the first time I full-fledged took on a client, it was a cafe in Brooklyn that wanted to do have the cafe by day and run all of these artistic programs and creative events by night, and she was my first client and I enjoyed it. And it was in a small amount of time, we were able to do so much that I knew I had to keep supporting. And in-house, when I was working in-house, one of the a few projects that I worked on was specifically focused on business continuity. And that's just pretty much how do you put processes in place so that if something fails in your business, you can keep going. And it's nothing like the pandemic showed us how a lot of small businesses were not able to keep going without some of those processes in place. But what we don't know is that a lot of big businesses, they plan for pandemics. We would never think that, right? But I've literally been on projects where they actually plan for major disease outbreaks, technology, cyber attacks, and things like that. And they plan the entire process. Who will they contact? Who will be the backup vendor? Which country will they export this to and send this to? And that's where I really thought business continuity is it's just critical. And this is definitely something small businesses need. So fast forward, we saw it happen with the pandemic where a lot of small businesses unfortunately struggled in that area, rightfully or so. So that was like one of the anecdotes that really pushed me towards supporting small businesses in that. But it was pre-pandemic. It's just that this kind of heightened, the focus.
Yeah, so talking with you, I love that you just said that having that plan, that emergency plan, because
Right.
when we talked earlier, that was one of your 3 points. And so I'm going to ask you this again, because I would love to kind of go in deeper into your 3-pronged kind of advice you would give to someone who is feeling stagnant or struggling in their business, or feeling kind of overwhelmed with what has just happened, referencing going through a whole pandemic, and then how to move forward with understanding the reality that we are in this, that a lot of the business, especially for people of color, the business world has a specific framework for success that is not necessarily, we don't always have access to all the tools to get there. And so what are some things that someone can do or business can do when they're feeling frustrated or overwhelmed by the racialized system of business that they are constantly pushing up against?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I would say when you are, starting out, or really honestly, when just in business, whether it's the beginning, middle, or the end, some of the things I'd like to tell small businesses to focus on is, or stay true to even, is being authentic, having a plan, and having your team in place. And when I say that, I liken it to small businesses or scale it to small businesses, but this is in essence what a lot of big businesses do. So when I say on this authenticity, I mean really knowing your product, really knowing your purpose, really understanding your client, really understanding them, and staying true to that, especially when you come to purpose. Like a lot of companies, they'll have values and a mission statement and things of that nature. And I think it's worth a small business having it, even if it's a few sentences. And that's what I would definitely use ABC for when you're talking to your consultant. Schedule a meeting and ask them to help you talk through your mission and your values and your purpose, because that will take you a long way. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a client who is in the insurance industry, and they're very small, and autonomous vehicles, whether we like it or know it, they will be a part of, our society. So here you have this small insurance company thinking, well, we want to create products that keep us in the game. So when autonomous vehicles come out, we know how to now have a product, because it's no longer your traditional auto insurance. It's no longer your traditional, because now the person's not driving, right? So you're no longer insuring the person. So one of the things when we were working on the project with them is making sure we stay true to what their purpose is as a business. Like, who was their client? What were they able to offer? Being realistic, They're not a State Farm, they're not a Progressive Insurance, just really honing on who they are and being authentic, and then creating their products from that and understanding the customer that they have now and the potential customers that they may go after. So that's where, when I say authenticity, really understanding that and standing firm in that, you want to be stand firm enough to where you can bend, but not break, right? So you do want to be flexible, because if you do need to, maybe your clients are Black women between the ages 30 and 40, but you're seeing that there are Black women who are 50 that need your product, and not only Black women, but Indian women. So, think about that and pay attention. Okay, well, can I service this group while staying true to my purpose? If my purpose is to uplift communities of color and so on and so on and so on, just standing firm, but being able to be flexible. So I would say those are, when you're talking authenticity, it's just being very clear about your business and what product or service that you offer. And so we don't pause in between for questions, right? No, just make sure. Before
no, yeah. I'm gonna look to see questions, but you keep going. I love this.
I don't want to just keep talking and wait. Okay. And so after the authenticity part, I would say then that kind of feeds into your plan. So that's a big thing. Planning. We all know the same, prior planning prevents piss poor performance and all the other, things that with planning brings along with it. But when I say planning, I'm referring to more to the people, your processes, and also your, positioning. So plan for, have a basic business plan, right? Talk to someone about business continuity. Like, what would I do in this instance? What would I do? It's going to be a new thing for small businesses to talk about business continuity, because it's not very common. But again, you're here with ABC, you have consultants who've actually literally done the work with several organizations. This is the time to get something like that done, for no cost, right? Time is money, but this is worth it. And the processes in place. So make sure you understand how everything that runs your business, how it works. If you don't have it, write it down. So if you are a children's book author, I'll use my own example. If you're a children's book publisher, and you know that you have an editing process, you have an intake process, you have an illustration process, you have all these processes in place, but all of those take time. You don't just say, okay, illustrator, illustrate. There's an intake meeting with the illustrator. There is, other people that you may have to get involved, the author and the editor, and things like that. You just want to have all the processes, all the steps that it takes to do your business well defined. And I would, again, write it down, but at the very least have it in your head, but definitely write it down, because everyone knows once you start writing the process down, you're like, oh my gosh, this is what it takes to run my business. And when you're looking at that, you can actually start to scale back. You can see where you're doing things that don't need to be done. You can see where you need to kind of beef up in other areas of the business, but process is very important. And then having the people, what people do you need to do what? And have all of their information down and have a backup person for each person, if you can. And I don't mean have a backup person on staff, right? But if you have a freelance editor that you work with regularly, have someone in place in the wings. So if that person doesn't show up or whatever happens, you can bring them in. But just really look at how you run your business, who you use to run your business, and where you run your business. So if you run it online, really understand all of the platforms that you're using. If you run a physical location, really understand everything about that, understand your contract, understand where your landlord is going in 5 years, understand the neighborhood that's around you. Like all of these things are very important when you're planning the next moves for your business. It's a very strategic way of thinking, and it feels like it takes a long time, especially when I say it out loud. But again, not to shamelessly plug with ABC, here's your chance. When you do it out loud and you have a person asking you these questions objectively, that is what consulting is. A lot of what we're doing is we're just bringing out of you what's already sitting inside, you know what I mean? Or just, I never thought of it. That's what's happening there. And it feels like it's going much more quickly. It's very therapeutic. It's very helpful. It's very supportive. So that's what I would say when I go to planning. And that planning, speaking of supportive, feeds into this little last bucket, and that is your team in place. When you have a team in place, you can move mountains, right? Especially when you're a solopreneur, right? You want to you may not be able to bring everyone on as a part of your business, but you have them in the wing. And the reason why that authenticity and that plan is very important before you build your team is that you want to attract the right people to your business, right? So when you know the type of business you are, the culture you want to create, the vibe that you're giving off, you'll start to attract those people more than likely, but also you'll look for the right people. So because they'll know, oh, this is what this business is about. They won't be confused, So even if it's not the right fit, once they come and they see the business and they're like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to work there. And that's better for both people involved, right? So that's where it feeds into that team aspect. So you have that going on. And also with the plan and the authenticity and the plan in place, and more specifically the plan, because you've already thought through the people that you need and the processes that you need to be in place and the positioning. When you're networking and you're out there, or when you're on these ABC calls, when you're at the different events and things like that, you will immediately be able to identify the people that you need on your team. You'll be talking to someone and someone will be like, yeah, I'm a writer. You're a writer? I need a writer because I need someone to write this process for me, or I need someone to write, oh, you're an auditor? Oh my gosh, I need an auditor because I need someone to manage my books because every month I have to do blah, 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 so on and so forth. But because that plan is in place, it's in the back of your head. And then you have investors, right? Like some people are going to be asking for funding, whether it be through a nonprofit where you're asking for a grant or you're looking for an actual investor. You want to be able to spill off who you are, what you're about, and where you're going as quickly as possible. And when you've already done that work, you'll just spit it out and they'll be like, oh, impressed. Because all of us have been guilty of it. How many of us have been like, someone's like, well, what do you need right now? You're like, well, I just need people. I can't do it. Or I don't know, I could use and you really don't know, but you need something, and but doing that work beforehand really kind of helps you with understanding who you are so that you can attract the right people. And again, when I say people, I mean people that are working in your business, working with you, investors, grant funding organizations, and so yeah, that was a lot. So
no, I think I love what you're saying, because then at least let me mirror back what I hear is that when I'm feeling frustrated, or maybe stuck, whatever stage I'm at, when I'm feeling maybe overwhelmed by some of the realities of going through a pandemic, and still going through, right? Realizing and acknowledging that this system is not necessarily created for me, as a person of color. I can allow that to cause me to not make movement, or I can allow that to take me to a place where I really double down into some of these things that make me me. And that's as an artist, as an individual artist, because we as individuals are businesses. Any creative person that's performance based, you're a business. And or a smaller business, or even like you said, these larger businesses do this all the time. They take time to sit down and say, who are we really?
Right.
What is, and like, where are we at in our plan? Like, maybe you've been moving and just going along and now need to reevaluate the plan. Are we still at the place, or do we need to put some other things in place? Do we need to find more people? And I think that that's so important to, yes, acknowledge your frustration, but also then go back to who you are. That's something you have to repeat. Go back to your plan, right? What do we need? And then working that plan in your mind so that you know, like you said, so you can recite that off very quickly. It's not something that you're guessing at. You know what you need to get to the next step.
Right.
And that's why I'm going to plug ABC because we have a wonderful team of consultants who really have a heart for seeing small businesses and people of color succeed and move to whatever that next step is. And that next step may look very differently depending on, what you are able to kind of come to the table with. And I think, it's very important to sometimes take a pause and double down and remind yourself some things, or take the time to create some things for yourself. And I think that is very powerful, what you just said, that plan. And then all of that will then lead you to your people. Like, it's not even that you have to then start hunting, because you have really solidified who you are and what your plan is and what that next step is that you need to accomplish. Then the people will come. You'll be ready.
Right. Absolutely.
That's powerful.
It's worth it.
So my next question to you is really about your own kind of, how did this three-pronged process that you shared help you in your own business, and how you were able to kind of step through that to get to where you are today?
Right. And you're meaning with Oakley Management, just getting up and going. So,
or you as a creative as well, because I know that you write children's books. You have a lot of creative endeavors that you pursue as well. So either one or both, I would love to hear, because I think it's so helpful for people to kind of see, like, what does that look like in practice?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think when it comes to my consulting practice, like I said, I really love what I was doing when I was problem solving, in essence. Like, I'm good at that. It's one of my knacks. And part of that is really just listening to what the problem is, and just being creative and trying to support people through it. And that's like authentically who I am. So that kind of led me into, again, like I mentioned earlier, people really asking for that help, asking for that support, asking. I'm like, okay. And then I built my practice around not only what people were asking for, but also what I knew they needed. So I would never the authenticity part comes into place. I would never just sit there and bob my head. Like, you're going to hear the truth of whatever we're talking about. So, or whatever you're asking me. And whether they like to hear it or not, like the cafe I was working with, for example, I remember saying, Part of what she wanted to do is just have this is going to be something very simple, but she wanted to do pour overs. And that would be the only thing that was available was the pour overs. And on the other side, there was like a financial strain of like just being able to keep the doors open and, things like that. And so we all know that a pour over takes a good amount of time. So if I am
Can you describe what a pour over? I'm a little.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's a
That's okay.
really good question. So at a cafe, I love cafes, you guys. So, but I was a self-proclaimed cafe junkie. So yes, at a pour over is where you actually put the tea or the coffee bag within this little machine, not machine, but this contraption. Put the coffee in there and you pour the water over, and the water and the coffee drips slowly into the actual cup. And it tends to be very bolder and stronger and tastes wonderful, right? So that's for a person who's coming regularly and sitting down and having coffee and enjoying the moment, which is not the average. It's not every person that goes to a cafe. Sometimes they just want to pop in, go, and get their food and go, or get their coffee and go. And there were just a lot of things that were in the cafe that were very intricate, took a lot of time to make and things like that, which was very beautiful. You're pouring, but let's go back to your purpose, right? You want to give people the cafe experience. You want to put a cafe in the community where people can enjoy. They come in and stop by and see what programs and what art is going to be displayed later on that evening or throughout the week. But your customer is telling you, I don't have time. A lot of them are telling you, I don't have time to sit here and wait for your pour over. I need to get in, give me a cup of coffee, and I need to keep going. So you have people literally coming in saying that, oh, can I just have a cup of coffee, or can I just have a latte? It's like, oh no, we just have so being attached to that process, you're losing customers. So that's your bottom line. But you're also, switching and having a regular process for coffee is not going against your purpose, right? It's not like, oh, this is just what they do at regular McDonald's. They just put the coffee in the coffee, but you don't have to do it like McDonald's. You can have an upgrade or better or more quality coffee, but still have something that someone can get quickly when they come into the shop, So it's one of those things we had to talk through where it's like, you have to have a quick, it doesn't make any sense, because then cafes are also coffee shops, right? So we just had to talk through it. And those are one of those simple things that she had to bend on, but it was more, it was an attachment. I want to artfully, give someone their coffee every time they come. I want to create it using the process and things like that. But you're understanding your customer, that's not everyone. And if you want to get them in the door and you want them to see all of the events that you're having later in the week and things like that, you can get them in the door by just them coming and grabbing their cup of coffee and waiting for, looking around. But if you don't have what they want in the first place, they're never going to get there to know what you're doing. They're not going to know about the live open mic that's going to be, later on. Right. But yeah, so that is, that's one of those, like, putting kind of what I do into practice and talking to someone through, like, being authentic and things like that. But as far as planning, naturally, I with the consultant practice, I had to really plan, mostly because not only do I have the consultant practice, I have a children's media and publishing company. So I have to see how are these going to work with each other. So that took a lot of understanding, being very specific in the services that I offer. So I know that I'm great at strategy and innovation. I know that I'm really great at business continuity and change management, helping someone get from one place to the other and bringing people along with them if they need to. So I had to really hone in there and kind of push away all the other things. And say no so that I could leave room for the other things that I've done, that I'm doing. When I'm putting this into place from a creative perspective, um, again, children's publishing and media, I have a true purpose for the children's media and publishing company. I want to provide diverse content, and I want it to be diverse in every way. So everything from the characters to the media outlets and types. So everything is ebook, everything is audio book, everything is physical copy. So there's different media outlets coming in. So I want to have these diverse characters. I want to tackle diverse topics. And I'm really have a strong focus on physical and mental wellness for children. So I keep that in my head at all times. And of course, by the nature of being building a media company and being a publisher, you do get people who, when you're talking to them, they have a book idea, which is lovely. The more books, the better, as far as but I've spoken to people where it just doesn't match, right? Or they'll tell me a story and it'll be like, but it's for younger adults. It's more of a fantasy, it'll sound so cool. And when I tell you, sometimes I'm like, yes, I want to bring that book on, but it's like, that is outside of the purpose that I have and that I created. But I'm happy to support that person in another way or send them to an editor or things like that. But when it's not fitting, I have to leave it where it is. But then you'll have people who've come to me and they're like, I want to do a children's book, but I feel like it's more for adults. And I'm like, that's great, because one of our mission statements is to really partner with the parents and the teachers in the development of the children, right? So it's building a community. So what better than to do that than have children's books for adults? You know what I mean? So that there's an example where you have content that is completely out of scope for what you want to focus on in your company. And then you have a demographic that wasn't your initial demographic, but it works because of the purpose and the mission statement that is part of your organization. So then when I'm planning, it goes back to what I used the example earlier. I have to know every little step of the publishing process. And when I tell you that was a journey for me, that's why I know that this step is very important, because I wasted a lot of money, a lot of time. And we all know as solopreneurs, our time is, oh my gosh, of the essence. Just not really writing things down, putting people in place, securing a freelance editor, like letting them know that I will be back with more work, for example, so that I know that I have that person the next time, so it would be something where to do one book, it took me 1 week to get it edited. But now, because I didn't put the process in place to make sure I secure that person, and the next time it took me a week just to find a new editor before I could even, because now I'm going around and I'm like, oh, what about this person? What about the? So now it's to the point where I actually know how to recognize the style of the editor before I even bring them on. But I had to have those growing pains to get through that. But I would have loved to have spoken to someone out loud and brainstormed that with them. And them just ask me, what does it take to publish a book? And I'm like, oh, well, and I'm blah, 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 blah. And then they asked me a question after I told them the first step. And then they asked me another question, almost like that would have forced me to have that in place. But I didn't have that early on, but now, I do. And it's not perfect, so I'm still evolving, but it's way better so I can't stress the importance of that plan. And then with that plan came the people. It came the people and all the different processes, and even people getting my books into stores, right? Being able to go into the store and spit off what this book is about, and talk to them and and them really catch your vision very quickly. Because a lot of times they're like, oh, okay, so what is it? So who's they're trying to do a million things, especially when it's a smaller bookshop as well. They're just like, okay, so who's okay, and you just have to rattle it off, and they're like, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, we'll take some, or something. Help them know how it matches, right? How you
So
fit.
what I love, I just, you're just saying so many really great things that I want to reiterate and just mirror back to all those that are people that will be listening later and listening now. Knowing who you are, knowing, and I'm going to ask you a question about this, but this idea of, because you know who you are authentically, how you can say no to certain things and how you can bend to certain things. I'm gonna have a question about that. So that was something around authenticity that you shared in your process in consulting others and even in your own work. And then this latter point that you just made, super powerful, about how not just having the plan, but memorizing the plan and having things really well down by rote after a while, so that when someone tries to hit you with a question that maybe that you're prepared for it, that you are really prepared to answer those questions and get in front of the people that are going to help you move your plan forward. I just think that it's something that I don't always think about, even as an individual artist. How do I show up for myself in rooms where people who don't know me and know what I'm bringing? How do I quickly say, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is what I can do for you, in a way that gets people's attention, but also doesn't waste their time. So I have some questions for you. So here's my first question, because you shared about this idea of being flexible in your, where is there a flex? And I would say, what are some ways to know that? How do you know when to say no? And when you can say, yes, I can, like those questions that you were asking, the coffee shop owner was like, is it going to really hurt your bottom line? Does it really affect your authenticity to offer this faster way of serving coffee alongside of the pour over process? Because understanding what their ultimate goal was for their business. So how do you come to, how do you know when it is a no and when it is a flex?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I would say part of it is you'll know, like you almost feel it too. That's the thing, your spirit feels it. And it may sound fluffy, and I do guide meditation. Mixie knows this, so this is all up in my realm. So but I feel like you'll know, like, and when you understand, and understand is it's a more complex word than I think people get. When you understand something, you sat with it, you've researched it, you've felt it, you've really connected when you're understanding, right? I think there's a quote in all that I get and get an understanding, because it's that important, is to really understand. And that's why I say in that authenticity process, understand your customer, and your purpose and your product, so that you can know quicker and sooner, whether it be through a feeling or something as black and white as it falling outside of your mission statement, that you say no. And then the other thing I would say is, when you're not sure, it's okay to say, let me get back to you, and speak it through with your sounding board. You may have a team in place, or a person or a friend in place, that you can ask a question. I feel like I've asked you questions like, what do you think about and that's probably because it was something that was presented to me, or was, brought to my attention, that I'm contemplating on. But I'm able to then go and talk to someone about it and say, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And then get back to whoever with an answer. So one, you'll know. I feel like it, because you'll know, because you've done the work and you understand what it is you're doing. And two, don't be afraid to say, let me get back to you. And then go really sit with it, meditate on it, pray on it, talk with someone, and then get back to them. Right. So be still. It's kind of in
Yeah, I
essence what
think,
that is.
yeah, and I think that is another aspect of this, business industry and the machine and any business, right? That there's like this time people want,
Right.
and I think that's a pressure that we have to resist,
I
that
get
the push to rush and to put out something or to do something or get to the next thing, it just may not be where you're at, and that it really can be uh, difficult but revolutionary to say, I need a
right.
minute. I need to slow down. I need to, like you said, get in touch with my gut, get in touch with whatever it is that I'm, and talk to my people. If I don't have people, if you need people, this is the time again.
Oh,
Come through the
plug,
desk.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. And sit down with someone. Can keep, what is it? I think there's this interview with Denzel Washington where he says, I mean, you can be moving all the time and going nowhere. You could be running
Yeah.
in place.
Absolutely.
Movement doesn't
Absolutely.
mean that you are
I've been
moving
it.
forward or moving in the direction you want to move, wherever that is.
Right. Or it's supposed to be. Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so being able to, I like that you said, being able to slow down, to say, can I get back to you? And if that person or organization, they don't have that kind of time, that's a confirmation in my, I have to keep telling myself as an artist, I'm like, that's confirmation. It wasn't meant for me, because if they're
Right.
asking me to say yes right now, right away.
Right. Because you never know why someone is pressing you to say yes, right? It could be that time is of the essence, sure. And that's why the understanding part is because sometimes you do have to act and think fast and speak. And that's why you have to do that work. We have to do that work and understand it, because there is an obligation to ourselves in that way, and to our purpose and to what we're giving to the earth as our service. But also there's that still part, but then you never know. So the person time could be of the essence, or it could just be a fluff, right? It could be, let me ask you quickly and apply that pressure to get what they want, So it's not always time is of the essence. Sometimes it's like, yeah, time is of the essence so that I can get what I want now, and this person feels the pressure. And so just again, I would definitely, but I love that statement you said. You can, that Denzel said, you can be doing a lot, moving fast, going nowhere.
All
Like
things
we've all
and go
been guilty. Yeah,
nowhere. So
absolutely.
here's the next question. You shared about planning and getting people in place. So the question is, what if I'm very early on and I know what I know, I have a deep understanding of what I offer, and who I want to offer this to, and maybe even have started moving, right? But don't have the money or the resources to get to the people, or fully understanding of the people that I need.
Mhm.
Is a waste of time to sit down and create a list of people that I can't afford? Or like, how would you coach someone through that kind of barrier of saying, I don't have money, I don't have time, I know I need this, but I'm just going to cut this corner, or, not sit down and take the time to have that full plan in place, because uh, it's pointless. I'm not going to be able to get it anyway. What
Right.
would you say to someone about that? Because I secretly, I have my own response to that, but I wonder, like, what would you say?
Right. And when you say they, meaning they can't get what the customer needs, or they can't get the funding for
I
what
think
they're doing.
Yeah, I think it's like the funding for the people that they need. So
Okay.
like you say, it's like, yeah, I need an HR person, but I don't have that money for that HR. Why do I need to even think up through what kind of HR person I need if I know I don't have the money to do that.
Mhm.
And why, how do you navigate someone who is kind of feeling blocked in just having access to pay people or access to people, when kind of thinking about that plan, that aspect of their plan?
Mhm. Well, I would say it's always worth putting the plan in place and knowing who you need, because you don't know what's going to happen. I remember uh, putting together a nonprofit, and I had no idea that the work, especially in New York City, if you're developing a nonprofit, it's you can't use one of the online legal services to do it because it's that complex that they don't do it. So you need to go get a lawyer, and so I really didn't know about all of that, but I was so determined and convicted by the mission of the organization. And I remember a friend told me about a friend of his that was a nonprofit lawyer. And I sat with the lawyer and told him about what I'm doing, and him and his wife, and so on and so on. And because I was so clear on what I was doing and what I wanted to do, he did the entire process for free. But I was so clear, and passionate about it. And he's like, okay, get this and this to me, and we'll see and I had all of that. I had things written down, a little stickies, and this all I had to do was make some things look pretty and some things, but I was so clear that it didn't really take as much time it was just me procrastinating, not wanting to sit in front of my computer, right? That's the most that took up time for me to get it to him. But I got it, and he's just like, she's really serious. And he's just like, you know what? Don't worry about it. I'll get it. I'll file everything. Or I got that. Just give me, oh, this is the fee for that. Give me the fee for that. And so, don't block your, your next steps, or what we like to say, block your blessings, right? We all PLCs on here, we hear that. And, just don't block divinity in the way, like, just if you know that's what you need, go through the process, write it down. And in the meantime, because maybe it will take time for you to get that person or be able to create a product for this specific group, but do what you can. Always think quantity over quality, because I've had that with my children's books. Is, oh my gosh, I have these 5 books out, but it's like 5 book ideas, but I really want this author. I really want this illustrator, excuse me, because they're so good. But if I get this illustrator, he can do like all 5 of the books for the same price. So we put up, but it's nowhere near the same quality. So it's like, okay, step back, and you will only be able to present 2 books, right? And these are quality books, and these are getting great reviews, whether it be on the website or on Amazon. So it sets me up for bigger and better. So versus if I would have just put out whatever, and I'm like, okay, so now I have 5 pieces of out there, right? And that's not what I'm trying to attract. That's not the customer I'm trying to attract. That's not the team I'm trying to attract in any way, whether it's investor or so. I would say go ahead with the plan and put all the people in place that you think you need. Don't feel like you have to be perfect. And in the meantime, do what you can do, keeping the idea of quality over quantity in your head.
I like that response, because I feel that way too. I feel sometimes it's so, again, the reason why I keep bringing it back to the business system and some of the realities of that can really defeat people of color, and that not having access to people, access to capital, access to what it is that, like, what the plan should look like, so someone else can read it and look at it, and how to get that plan well rehearsed, because I've never done these things before, right? It could feel overwhelming, and it could be very frustrating.
Right.
And but I think that what you just said, really kind of saying, okay, even though I know there are a lot of things that I may be struggling to afford or access, I'm not going to let it stop me from dreaming and writing down everything that I think that I need and learning about all of the steps of the process. So that when I do, again, like you said, am able to get to in front of people, I can say right away what I need and why, and what and know what it is I'm trying to create, because I've spent the time understanding my product and my audience and whatever it is that that's driving me in my gut that I'm
Right.
passionate about. That those things do go a long way and can still allow for forward movement in the face of, this very racialized system that can feel very overwhelming at times.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and that is why, too, again, we're just going to keep saying it as our time starts to wind down, too,
Right.
that we are at ABC, we're very passionate about allowing space and removing these barriers that we are always, many of us are faced with, and as individual artists, as smaller businesses, creative smaller businesses, or even larger, businesses are trying to learn how to scale. There can be moments of just feeling very overwhelmed, even
Right.
more so in this time. And even though, and I'm going to have one more question for you, but even when we're talking about access to capital, and people who have connections to capital, like that can feel hard to know where to look in those rooms, and then understanding the processes and the applications. But it is up to us to not feel paralyzed by those things, and
Right.
still to still dream, to still say, no, that's not it. You're and not to be rushed, and to move with intention and integrity, and however that looks for, whatever business you're trying to build or create or scale.
Right. Right.
So my question to you, this last question, is really around this people and access to people, because I could have all these things that you said put together and then not know who to talk to or where to go, or realize that my circle is very small. And so what would you say to someone who's saying, okay, I've done all these things and I think this business will be really great, but I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to start first and how to get to the people. Now, I could be telling my friends, I mean, what is that stepwise process? And maybe share some of your own personal journey in finding your people.
Right. Yeah. Part of that is we live in an information world. I was going to say age, but at this point, it's the world. It's just, so much information is out there that your experience is what's going to be what speaks for you for real at this point, right? Because you can read something and regret. But I always joke about this to people. I would literally Google what you're looking for. So if you are at a point where, we use this HR person just because we always know about hiring people, firing people, legalities of that, we use that a lot. But even if it's a marketing person, even if it's a social media manager, even if it's an accountant, even if it's an investment source of investment, I would Google, have a fully planned business, need money, and see what pops up, see what organizations pop up around you, just start reading. I know that I had to work with a client that needed me to have all of these documents, SOC and all of these different compliance documents before I could actually touch their product, because the industry that they were in. And I didn't have that. I didn't have any of those things. I knew somewhat what they were because I'm coming from management consulting, but they did all of that stuff. They had big lawyers and accountants to get all of that stuff and turn it into whoever we were working with. And we just come on site like, hey, but all of that back end stuff, I didn't really have to touch as much. So when I was confronted with needing all of this, and then I started to look up how to get it and what it would cost, and who was like, oh, wow. But I literally started to put in small business way of complying to blah, blah, blah. This, and then once I started getting all of these buzzwords, I would go and dig into that company. Oh, Microsoft Exchange has a server that only costs this much per month. Okay, well, then that's what I'm going to use. Right. So instead of allowing all of the words and the what I needed to do to overwhelm me, I just had to step back and break it down and then go from there. So if you have people out there, especially looking for funding, there are a lot of, and I'm sure just even working with people in ABC, between all of us, we can spit out at least 3 or 4 incubator programs that are out there for small businesses. You know what I mean? Like we've either all done 1 or 2 of them or heard about it from somebody else and said, I'll pass that one in 6 months. I'll pass that one, will take 15% of my business. I'll pass that. I'll take that one. I'll take 5%. And it's only 2 weeks of a program. So, they're working with programs like these, finding them through whether it be Google search, going to your chamber of commerce. If you don't want to do Google search and you want to just do the real, go to that office and chat with them. Lots of cities and lots of states have their own small business administrations. Aside from the federal small business administration, they will direct you to your local agencies that have different programs and resources. So it's out there, and actually it could be overwhelming, you know what I mean, versus not enough out there, because then you got to weed through, okay, what should I do, spend my time doing, because I can't sit around all day applying for grants and applying for, this award from this foundation or award from that. So then you have to kind of break that down. And then the other thing is, if you have the funding, if you have the extra finances, because not everybody is like bootstrapping, hire someone to do this for you. You know what I mean? Like big companies have it to where they will build a product and literally have a product sales team. Here's the team. I mean, I was one of those, here's the product, go out there and sell it. I will give you a percentage for every sale that so also if you have the resources to kind of get some of these, things professionally done, do that too. But either way, don't stop. Don't stop, even if it feels overwhelming, even if you have to do one thing per day,
Shamair, I love you said the Chamber of Commerce. I love that you were, yeah, because I think that we forget there are these systems that are in place that are there to help and support us. And that is one of them that's huge. And I also really appreciate just the literal, just type it in, just type in the search. And I didn't learn about incubators until a lot later in life, and understanding, yes, there are some that you may not, there's so many now. It used to be like there's
right
tech world, there's like certain really big ones, and they take a percentage because they're going to get you in front of those people. Right. But there's so many now that are more like consortiums or cohorts of smaller Black owned businesses, and they may not even take a percentage, but they're just really trying to help you grow your network and get in front of some people that would really benefit and give you the finances and the capital that you need to get to the next level of your business.
Right.
Even for creatives, for individual creatives, there are ways to plug into people and networks through the same things that you shared. So you don't have to be necessarily see yourself as like an LLC or have this title. You can just be someone in a very like developed, very early stage of not even a plan, and be a part of an incubator.
Yeah, absolutely.
As an individual.
Sometimes they like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a difficult process. Their intake process is very simple. There's many different ones. And I know that if you come through to Help Desk one-on-one consulting, we can help you think through that as well. Yeah. Right.
Between this group, you'll have 20 and be like, okay, which one should I choose? This is crazy. But then you'll get recommendations on top of that. So it's like, it it's there. And yeah, just know that know that you're worth it. Um,
Mhm.
know that all that you bring to table, if it's real and genuine and true, you're worth it. It's worth it, with the work you put in. And keep that in mind. Like, don't allow a lot of the systems that we have to make you feel a certain way, because they really don't have that power on the surface level. It has to penetrate through you. You have to accept it. You have to accept it for it to even start to take place. And just know that you're worth it. It's worth it doing that work. Yeah.
I think it's a great point to end on.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Shamair. Thank you for your
Oh,
expertise.
thank you
If
guys.
people would like to find you, where can they look? I'm going to say first, before you share any of your personal, stuff that whatever you'd like to share. Shamair and all of the consultants are open. Their schedules and calendars are open. You can go to, again, www.artsbusinesscollaborative.org/programs/help-desk. And you can book an appointment with Shamair right now and sit down and really have someone who's very skilled in strategic planning and thinking through all of the steps that you need for your business and wherever you're at whatever stage. And so we are offering this amazing service for the next 3 months. And so if you love what you're hearing and how Shamair thinks about planning and her 3 points of building that authenticity, understanding yourself, building out your plan, and then allowing that plan to develop how you strategically look for people to get you to that next step. I say, please go to the website and book today. There's also some great courses on our website through our partner, Creative Study, and they are offering 30-minute short courses, and they're with a workbook thing. So some of the work that you can start doing through the course before you come to a one-on-one is kind of getting a mission statement down or getting a plan, a framework of a plan together, and then bringing that into the consulting space with the one-on-one with Shamair. And then lastly, we just encourage you to please spread the word. These videos will be up on our YouTube page, and you can rewatch and just listen to better understand who the consultants are, as well as what we're offering through ABC. With that being said, I wanted to just share again and my screen also to say that coming up, ABC will be offering fiscal sponsorships. So I just wanted to share that again before we go, that we do have a program for through our 501c3 status. We offer fiscal support, or fiscal sponsorship plus is what we call it. And it kind of consists of having a full consultant team, access to them who specialize in grant writing, financial management, marketing, communications, and work for whatever project you're trying to create or build for your business. We also do funder research for you. And then these program check-ins are really great. I think that many fiscal sponsorship programs don't offer this, but I just want to make it known that our FS Plus program will be launching this month. And if you're interested and want to learn more, please reach out to programs@artsbusinesscollaborative.org. So thank you again, Shamair, for your time. Thank you for your thoughtful sharing and commentary around just how to navigate, how to think, and really have a mindset that is focused on what you can do and not what is stopping you
Yes.
from moving and feeling overwhelmed. And so I loved all the things that you shared, and just I want to say thank you. And I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you. I did too. And I'm just sending so much love and well, wishes and progress and success to everyone out there listening who will be listening. I'm really just sending that your way, and hoping, for the best, and really encouraging you to take uh, you know, part in what ABC has to offer. It'll be very helpful. I don't it's just not possible that it wouldn't, just from my experience, and having that consulting background and seeing how it really helps. I would say just
Yeah.
do it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and to reach me, yes, you can reach me
Mm.
on, like Mixie said, my schedule will open up on the website. But outside of that, I think my email will be attached when you make an appointment, but it's either Shamair at oakleymanagementservices.com or Shamair at kidsboromedia.com that you see here on my screen. Either one of those, you'll find me. But just be sure to spell my name right, and that's usually the trick. And put at either of those websites, and you should be able to get to me, or just go on Instagram and you'll probably find me there too, and won't have
Yeah.
to worry spelling right. So, so yes.
But
Go
yeah,
with
and
that.
we have all of our consultants, Shamair included, with their bios and just a breakdown of what they offer, and then their calendars so you can book today. So I hope to see you in those one-on-ones and throughout the next 3 months at Help Desk. Again, thank you to our sponsors, M&T Bank, the Mertz Gilmer Foundation, and Ameriprise Foundation. And have a great evening. Thank you, Shamair.
Bye, everyone. Onward and upward.